Hi, I'm Jason Garbus.
And I'm Jerry Chapman.
Welcome to our video on our Zero Trust origin story. While neither Jerry nor I are superheroes, we do have an origin story about how we learned what this concept of zero trust is and how we got to where we are and why and how we actually ended up writing a book together. So let's kick it off, have some fun as we go through this. So Jerry, how did you learn about this concept? Where did you come from and how did we end up here?
Yeah, Jason. So this is a story that goes back a couple of years. I've been doing identity and access management for 20 years. And about 5 years ago, I fell into an opportunity where we were really spending some time. I was learning about how does identity become a part of security and what does that really look like? And what is that? And so what I really...
This was part of your, obviously you worked at Opted, and in that role, you spent a lot of time working with enterprise clients and consulting on and implementing identity systems.
Absolutely. I mean, identity was such a core of all that, and being a part of a large cybersecurity firm, it was such a much larger focus on what does security look like and what does that mean. So as I started to dive in a little bit deeper, I started working with an organization called the Identity-Defined Security Alliance. And through that, I was the technical architect of this. I spent some time with this and really started to talk to different organizations that became a part of this. People like you, Jason. I mean, we obviously met through there.
Yeah, through the Identity-Defined Security Alliance, exactly. It was, I think you were spearheading the development of the architecture, and I joined in and started to talk about things from a network and the concept of bringing identity concepts to network level enforcement, which is obviously nowadays one of the core principles of zero trust.
Yeah, I mean that just became this broader concept. I mean, I started working with other security vendors, other security providers, and really just started to envelop and digest what this zero trust security meant, and started just determining how does identity become the center of all this, and then just reading different papers, obviously the Kindervag paper, and just growing with it. It just became such a really hot topic for me. It was always on the tip of my tongue, something I always wanted to talk about, and just started working with enterprise clients about what does zero trust mean? How do we bring zero trust to bear? And that's something. It became a passion, to be honest. It became a passion for me. So yeah, that's really where I started from, with zero trust. And so I have to thank the Identity-Defined Security Alliance, because without that, I probably would not have, I wouldn't be here today. It just wouldn't have, probably wouldn't have been something that was on my radar, to be frank.
So I've been working in information security for about 10 years. And I was with a firm called Avexa, and we focus on identity governance, which of course is one slice of identity management. And at Avexa, what we did was we helped organizations solve their identity governance challenges, compliance issues, reporting, as well as the workflow and the processes around it. But the concepts behind it were, how do you make sure that you understand who has access to what, and you make sure that all that access is appropriate? So that was really my first foray into the world of identity management. What was interesting about it was, of course, it all worked really just at an account level. The way the identity governance tools worked was, okay, let's get a picture of who has accounts in this system and that system and make sure that we map properly to roles and things like that. After we grew that company, we ended up selling it to RSA, and I worked with RSA for a couple of years and obviously got exposure to a broader set of products in that portfolio. And then I joined a company which at the time was called Cryptzone, and we were approaching identity-defined security, or what the software-defined perimeter architecture, and was really a very natural fit for me, because it's taken these concepts that we built out, or I built out in my head, identity governance of, let's make sure that the right people, that we know who they are, they have roles, they have attributes, have the right level of access, and actually having the ability to enforce it down at the network level. So when I joined Cryptzone, we were building out this new platform, the product that we have on the market today, and it was following this architecture called the software-defined perimeter. So I joined that working group at the CSA and started to contribute to that. And also, of course, read the Kindervag paper and started to hear this kind of drumbeat around this concept of zero trust in the market. And it's amazing in the last 5-6 years how much it's grown. And thank goodness, because there's such an urgent need for it, that organizations, governments, and enterprises are really embracing this and investing in it.
Yeah, and Jason, I'll just add to that. I think that, watching what's happened in the market, in the industry over the last couple of years, just, going from this, let's talk about this zero trust thing, and let's talk about how do we take this zero trust thing and actually do it, right? So that's one of the really exciting things that I'm really starting to get and see happen in the industry a lot more than obviously 2-3 years ago. So it's really exciting as well.
Yeah. And you're obviously an implementer, and you work directly with enterprises to help them design and implement these identity and now zero trust programs. I work for a vendor, and it's so satisfying to see our customers, these complicated enterprises, go down this journey and see real value as they progress. I mean, that, to me, I feel so lucky that as part of my job, I get to work with so many customers and prospects and help them explore this complicated landscape. And I think that's one of the reasons why we decided to sit down and try to put our thoughts down on what ended up being 300 pages in our book.
It's a lot of thoughts, Jason.
We had to cut some stuff too, remember?
We did. Excellent.
Jerry, when we think about the history of zero trust and how the industry as a whole got us where we are today, I would say there's probably 5 important milestones along the way. And the first is this group called the Jericho Forum. It was started in the UK back in 2003, 2004, and they invented this term called deperimeterization, which was clearly a way of expressing and capturing what was happening in the market at that time in terms of the breakdown of the traditional firewall, perimeter-based firewall. Then you fast forward a few years, and you had, of course, the very influential John Kindervag white paper from Forrester on no more Chewy centers, and that's where the term zero trust was initially created. Around the same time, Google started implementing their Beyond Corp initiative, and of course, published a set of very influential white papers starting in 2014. Then you've got a couple other publications. You have the Zero Trust Network books published by Gilman and Barth in 2017, and the National Institute for Standards and Technology document, special publication 800-207. And the first draft of that was published toward the end of 2019 and finalized in the middle of 2020. So if you think about that arc and about how influential all of those things were, I feel that you and I are very lucky that we could stand on the shoulders of giants, of people who did that and really kind of express things through our unique lens. And I do think we have a unique perspective on this.
No, I absolutely agree, Jason. I think that, all of those foundational moments in time, if you will, that really brought us to today, right? And they've spent a lot of time focusing on what it was, and deperimeterization, and obviously the no more Chewy centers, and the different elements that really brought out the zero trust principles. And I think you and I having the ability to really take that from a zero trust networking perspective to that zero trust architecture to the enterprise, right? With a lot of my background with working with the enterprise and IAM solutions, how that comes together, and obviously your background with that some of the stuff you did with the identity governance and other elements that brought in the SDP components. I mean, that just seemed to be like this natural progression into what is the bigger story of zero trust look like. And it was just so, it's just been very exciting to see that come to fruition and come to light. And I think you and I spending some time really focusing on that NIST document, because as I think you pointed out, is that really brought that enterprise, somewhat of an enterprise conceptual view into zero trust. And then just you and I taking both of our, I would say, the breadth of our experience, and just really documenting that and what that looks like. I mean, it's pretty exciting stuff, and putting some, what I would say is putting some teeth into it, right? Really bringing some value to what those giants, what they put before us, and allowing us to carry that torch forward, if you will.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that clearly you and I both felt was missing, or an opportunity to fill in some of the white space around this, was the whole enterprise perspective. You obviously work with enterprises on a daily basis. I do as well, from a slightly different perspective. And a lot of the times, as I talk to prospects and enterprise architects and security architects and help them collaboratively figure out, here's where their architecture is and here's where they want to go down their zero trust journey, lots of common and, I would say, consistent sets of questions come up around, okay, how do I tie this into my SIM or my ITSM system or my next gen firewall or my IDS IPS or 15 other things. And you and I think consistently got those questions time and time again. And they are really interesting and complicated questions. And they're also things that were very hard for us to express with the requisite degree of kind of depth and subtlety and nuance, if you will, in a 1 hour webcast or even in a 2 hour meeting. And I think that's really drove us to write the book, which was, now we have the opportunity to write what ended up being some very long chapters. And we apologize for chapter 5 and chapter 17, but to really explore this with the depth that we felt like it deserves.
No, absolutely. And to add to that, and just to add a little more color commentary, that how many Google Hangout meetings did we have a week? It was just to get to the depth of what we went into those chapters, and to really bring that story out. So it's really across the enterprise, really something that can be consumed. That just in itself was very exciting, and we were able. I like the way we pulled that together. And so that just made it very, very interesting. And to your point, some very long chapters. So, we've talked about our origin, where we've come from, some of the elements that made us really, dive into this book. And we spent some time on that, and it's a really cool story, right? And standing on the giants and all of that. But I think really there's a moment for us to tell you, as the readers of the book, what we're hoping you get out of this. And from my perspective, I've been doing identity for a long time. So looking at identity and looking at the enterprise, my goal is for you to really understand that I want you to take out of this the silos of identity and security coming down, right? So to put the identity in the middle of the network, put the identity in the middle of security, and have that full enterprise zero trust architecture picture, and not the segmented picture of that. Jason, what do you think?
From my perspective, it's pretty clear that zero trust is not just a major trend of the industry, but fundamentally is a much better and much more effective way of approaching security. And as an industry, clearly, in the face of very advanced adversaries, yes, but as an industry, we are not being successful at defending our enterprises. And we just see that every day. And this has significant economic and geopolitical implications. So what I hope readers get out of this is, number one, they can do zero trust. There is a journey that they can take to make their enterprises successful. But perhaps more importantly is the urgency and the need to do it. As security professionals and as patriots and as people who care about the stability of our economic and governmental and democratic systems, I think we have an obligation to help our organizations move forward into this much more effective, demonstrably more effective approach to security. And that's a big challenge. And I think that it's an exciting one as well. I think we're all fortunate to be here at this point of the industry where there is technology and there is proven architectural approaches. And hopefully Jerry and I in this book will contribute in some small way to help make all of you and your enterprises more successful and more secure.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason.
Great.
And thanks, everyone. We'll see you
next
next
time.
Thank you all.
We'll see you next time. Bye.